Hey guys, hope you're doing well. In this video, I just wanted to talk about my ideal Starfield wishlist. These are the things I think the devs really need to bring to the game, and I'll also be ranking them in terms of how likely these will be. And first up, it is pets. I would love to have my very own pets in Starfield. Imagine roaming around planets with a friendly dog by your side, just like dog meats from Fallout. You could order it to attack, use it to carry items for you, and customize it with a bunch of cute little outfits. It could even have its very own spacesuit to survive in space, as seen with Cosmo in the Guardians of the Galaxy games. Now, before you say it, yes, in Starfield lore, it's hinted that dogs are an extinct species. That's what's revealed in this description for the Chocolate Labs breakfast cereal. It says they are, quote, shaped like an extinct canine called a Labrador Retriever. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean all dogs are extinct in Starfield, but we can safely leave Labrador Retrievers off the table. There's also concept art Bethesda did of a cat in the player's apartment, and that would be very cool to have something friendly to return home to. Not necessarily to have as a companion in and of itself. For now though, the best we can do is mind control alien wildlife and guide them places using the mind control skill. It is pretty pointless. All the best sci-fi games let you have pets, like your steadily growing collection of fish in Mass Effect, or being able to tame and summon creatures in No Man's Sky. They've also had companions in Fallout and Skyrim before that were dog-shaped, so how likely is it we'll see pets in Starfield? Honestly, given it's taken them 8 months to implement city maps, not very likely. Bethesda have animated tons of 2- and 4-legged creatures in the game already, so I know it can be done. They just move pretty slowly as a developer. Next up, something I really want to see is a radio on your ship to contact NPCs. This would save you having to fly all the way over to them every time you want to pick up a quest or cash one in. Imagine after finishing a quest, you can just head to the radio, tell them you've done what they've asked, and boom, you get your reward. This would instantly solve the problem of Starfield's loading screens. For example, you wouldn't have to fast travel to the quest giver, which is 2 loading screens minimum, one to enter the system they're in and one to enter the planet. Then potentially a 3rd loading screen to enter the house where that quest giver is. Then you're looking at doubling those 3 loading screens to 6 when you want to return to wherever it is you were originally at. So if we had a radio on our ship, that would remove 6 loading screens right there. It would also give us more reason to actually stay on our ship and just enjoy being there. Right now you just use ships to get from A to B, but if we can choose quests there, maybe even listen to music or get some news bulletins like in Fallout from our radios, that would make ship gameplay much more satisfying. The more stuff we can do on our ship, the more it's going to feel like a home. What about the likelihood of seeing this actually added to the game though? Well, a radio is going to be pretty hard to justify from a scientific standpoint. How can Bethesda explain giving players the ability to communicate with other NPCs in entirely different systems? The signal would take months or years to reach them. Well, to that I say, just invent something, make it sound sciencey, and I will let it go. Mass Effect has quantum entanglement communicators, or QECs, which lets you communicate instantly with anyone in the galaxy. That is pretty much nonsense, but you know what? I buy it because it shows the devs thought about it. They gave it a go, and I would also like to give radios in Starfield a go as well. But I give it, honestly, about a 10% chance of happening. It just feels like Bethesda doesn't want to go down that route gameplay-wise, otherwise we would have seen something like this before. Speaking of ships, I've actually got a massive wish list for this part of the game specifically. First up, give us a place where we can look at our ships. I'm thinking a space station or a capital ship where we can store them all like a big intergalactic garage. I hate going to a ship vendor every time I want to switch my ship around, then just selecting it from a boring menu. I want a physical space. A game that does this really well, and we're going back a few years here, it's Rogue Squadron on the N64 and also Rogue Leader on the GameCube. You can just walk from ship to ship and climb into your cockpit to select it. If we had the same with Starfield, it would make all of his ships feel like part of your collection. Starfield might not be able to handle more than a few ships on screen at any one time, and I say that because, well, they are quite big and I can't really remember seeing any more than like 3 parked on a planet. But I don't know, make the player walk through a door or something while the next ship loads. That's my solution. Another cool thing you could do with ships is having the parts actually functional, and by that I mean having a battle station that could add to your combat capabilities, or a cargo hall that could boost your onboard storage. Right now, these ship pieces don't actually do anything, and that means ships tend to all function similarly. But let's not stop there. What about adding functionality to other ship parts, like the brig? The brig right now is just a meaningless add-on that doesn't do anything, but what if it actually functioned like a brig? You could capture people with bounties and store them in the brig, and then you could deliver them to the right people. Your captors might try and cut you a deal while you're flying them, and then you could release them in exchange for credits, or you could just eject them out of the airlock. There is so much you could do with a brig, and I want to live the life of a bounty hunter. Again though, realistically, I can't see Bethesda adding in an entire kidnap mechanic, even though, come on, how difficult can it be to program? Continuing on the topic of ships, let me increase the amount of crew. Right now it caps out at 6, but ships just don't feel that full. I want a bustling bridge like on the Enterprise or the Normandy from Mass Effect. Now I actually went back and looked at the Normandy from Mass Effect to see if it was like what I remembered, and it actually was surprisingly empty. That's because there wasn't actually that many people on your ship, it just felt like it. Maybe Starfield could even do this. They don't even have to be interactive, just put some NPCs in a chair and have them press dials so they look busy. You could even increase the amount of crew depending on how many beds you have, so it's not just an abstract number tied to your ship. If you put in 10 beds, for instance, you should be able to have up to 10 crew. And again, what is the probability of this one being added in? Well, I can see Bethesda possibly expanding the size of ships, but I can't see them letting us add in more crew, as they probably landed on 6 for a reason. Any more than that, and the game probably crashes, or at least slows down. Another thing I want to see from the ship system is smaller parts. That's because I want the option of making tiny builds. The smallest ship size right now we can make in the game is still pretty massive, but what about the ability to make single-seater fighters like an X-Wing or Boba Fett's Slave One? That would give you even more control over making your perfect ship, because ships just seem to need to have so much stuff bolted onto them. You need the lander, you need the docking station, the engine, the reactors, etc. I just want some way to condense all that and make a tiny ship instead of a massive starship. This leads me on to stairs. Stairs are seemingly outlawed in this game. There's literally one ship part that lets you have stairs, and that's the Cabot Bridge. It's got 2 levels and you use those stairs to go between them. But that's only at the front of the ship. If you want to change levels anywhere else in the ship, you need a ladder, which looks ugly, having all these ladders plonked in the middle of rooms. You also don't really have control over where ladders go. They tend to just spawn wherever they want. I want the ability to add stairs between levels in the exact location I want without having to use that Cabot Bridge, because stylistically it doesn't really suit every spaceship design. Stairs are a lot better than ladders, I think we can all agree, unless you are a painter and decorator. Next up, this is getting all a bit RPG now, but what if we could command fleets of ships and send them on missions? Like, by the end of the Vanguard questline, for instance, or the Freestar Rangers questline, we reach the top of these factions, and realistically, we now should have the authority to command our own underlings. What if you could tell people in these factions to run a mission for you? You can increase or decrease the risk of that mission, then get a suitable reward at the end. It's something that games like XCOM do well, and I also remember loving this system in Assassin's Creed Brotherhood. They might suffer casualties during the mission, in which case they would take longer to heal up and go again. Or alternatively, enlist faction members to fight by your side in massive battles. You could call them on the D-pad using a controller and they would appear on your wing to lend extra firepower. We know Starfield can handle massive battles, especially if you've seen the one at the end of the Crimson Fleet questline, so let's take off those training wheels and take the game engine a bit further than having dogfights with like 2 enemies at a time. Finally, in the category of ships, I would love to see ship blueprints, and by that I mean the ability to save ship designs as blueprints. Then you can use these to keep coming back to. It is so weird how Starfield doesn't let you save ships. Once you build one, it exists only in one instance. If you then decide to sell that ship or alter it, you are doing that to the master design, making it really easy to accidentally ruin your ship with a bad modification or lose it completely by selling it. But what if we could save that essential blueprint so then we could iterate on the design and be a bit more experimental? Blueprints would also let us create ships from templates more quickly. No longer would you have to keep laying down the same core ship parts. You could have one blueprint containing all of the necessary parts like the lander, the reactor, etc. Then lay that down each time you want to build a new ship and work from there. This seems like a quality of life thing to me, and I can see Bethesda adding ship blueprints into the game. Moving on from ships, weapons, and I really need to see some more unique player weapons in this game. Not on ships I mean, but actual firearms. I've seen literally every single weapon at this point it seems, and it is getting old. Randomized loot has lost its appeal. I'm just not surprised anymore, and I'm not really asking for Borderlands with like a million different guns, but it would be nice for Bethesda to throw in some ultra rare new ones to put the fun back into the loot system. Like maybe there's a super rare sniper that appears 1 in every 10,000 chests, and it has a one-of-a-kind functionality no other weapon has. Maybe insta-freezing bullets or remote-controlled projectile rounds. Or maybe we could find a rare pistol that can shoot round corners. It is a shame this game is set in a sci-fi future with loads of cool technology, but the guns aren't really showing them off. An alternate way of giving us more control over our weapons is by having the ability to customize their effects. You can pick up weapons with up to 3 different randomized traits in Starfield, but you can't add or remove any. You are stuck with the ones you found on it. But what's stopping Bethesda adding something akin to enchanting in Elder Scrolls, where you can select and add weapon traits? It's way more preferable to trying to get lucky with a usable legendary that has all of the traits you need, and when you find one that almost fits the bill, you have to discard it because 1 out of the 3 traits is something you don't want. If Bethesda were looking for a way to make this enchanting system more challenging, just make the cost of enchanting like 10 Terramorph hearts or something. Pay 10 Terramorph hearts and you can enchant your weapon. On the topic of weapons, something that's a bit easier for Bethesda to pull off would be weapon skins. Just randomize the skins and the colors to give us rare variants. There's actually a whole weapon skin system at workbenches already, but you can't use it. You select it and nothing happens. So it would be nice for Bethesda to add different skins to weapons, as well as the ability to select skins and apply them yourself at weapon benches. We're talking zebra prints, fully chrome wrappings, and hey, while we're at it, decals of our favourite Starfield brands. I want an AK-47 rifle sponsored by Chunks. Also, more melee weapons, please Bethesda. What we do have right now is an axe, a sword, a knife, and a katana, and that's pretty much it. And they also function pretty much the same. I want electrified machetes, flaming crowbars, and pneumatic fists. Just get creative with it. And I can definitely see Bethesda adding in more melee weapons, but what really needs to happen is an overhaul of the melee system. It's just not a satisfying play style. There's not really a lot of strategy to it, like no evading and no special moves, just hitting the melee button over and over again. But a revised melee system with new moves, I can't really see it happening. Electrified machetes though, yes please. Okay, let's talk exploration, and specifically land vehicles. Now, we know land vehicles are on the way because Bethesda showed off a brief glimpse of one during the May update video. This is a rover, and the dev mentioned that this is just the first, so we're going to see a few different types of land vehicle. But what I really want to see is how they implement land vehicles. Like, I don't just want to summon it and have the vehicle magically appear. Let me add a vehicle bay to my ship, then press a button to deploy my rover. Give me some control over it. Let me add a garage to my outpost, and I can drive my rover into there. You could even allow players to customize their vehicles with different parts and paint jobs. There is so much you can do with land vehicles, so I hope it's not just a glorified mount, but we can actually personalize it. Another exploration improvement that needs to happen: non-airlocked external doors. It takes so much time to transition from exterior to interior when there's an airlocked door. The first door slowly opens, then slowly closes before the second door does the exact same thing. Either speed up the whole thing or just remove it completely on planets with breathable atmospheres, because right now it doesn't really make sense. Customization wise, I really want to see more clothing options like coats, trousers, and even accessories like glasses, shoes, and gloves. There really aren't a lot of cool civilian outfits in this game, so you really just spend most of your time in your spacesuits. The spacesuits do look cool, but I want some clothing options, because you can't really roleplay in a spacesuit. You are just an astronaut regardless of any choices you make. Let me dress up as a sci-fi businessman in a suit, or a Han Solo smuggler, or just like a cool city guy in a cool city outfit. Just give me more clothes. And finally, Bethesda needs to change the economy. Right now, making money in this game is tedious. You sell to a vendor, wait 24 or 48 hours for their money to reset, then do it again. The thing is, I'm not really sure how Bethesda goes about doing this. Like, do they just give vendors more money? Do they make ships and guns less valuable so money is more scarce? How do they improve the economy in this game? All I know is I don't really like it, but it is really complicated. I can empathize. It's a huge game with loads of things to sell and buy, so I'm not really sure how they can fix it. But, you know, I'm going to throw the question over to you guys. What about you? How would you ask Bethesda to fix the economy? Does it even need fixing? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. That's going to do it for this video. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, hit that subscribe button. And also, if you would like to sponsor this channel, head over to patreon.com/gaming with Griffin and sponsor me there. Thanks again, and see you in the next video.